Hi, welcome. This is a video in the Rules of Acquisition series. I'm producing these separate from the Ethereal Mechanics series so they can stand on their own. I'm not doing them in order. As you can see, we're starting off with a new rule of acquisition, which is number 31, which is titled Simplicity is Universal. Hi, my name is Robert Distinti. I'm an electrical engineer with 30 years experience, and this is a supporting video series to the Ethereal Mechanics series. I formally named this in the released version the complexity, versatility, duality, and that kind of sounds like a title for a Big Bang Theory episode. Essentially what it means is that simpler things have more uses than complex things. Things include non-tangible things such as ideas, models, theories, etc. And what we're going to come up with is a conclusion that if their theory of everything exists, it must be ridiculously simple. And we're going to show you how we get to that conclusion. And let's start off with a simple example. Here we have a lowly fiber. From a lowly fiber we can create threads and yarns, and then we can combine yarns or threads to create ropes. And then also with fibers we can weave things such as silk, which is made of a single fiber. We can hit it into paper and make other kinds of funny money and toilet paper. And then ropes, we can go on to rig ships and to make rope bridges. Threads, we can go on to make fabrics or use it to hold up our plumb bob. Okay, and if we go all the way to the top, you can look at the example of racing yachts. The hulls are made of carbon fiber. The masts are made of carbon fiber. Sails can be made of carbon fiber, but I think Kevlar fiber is one of the more important fibers. And then the lines, the sheets. There's a PBO fiber that they're using, which is polybenzyl oxazole or whatever they call that. And so here we have an entire 3D structure made completely out of fibers. Okay, here is like a theory of everything based off of one simple idea, the fiber. Okay, you can see how a very complex idea can be constructed from a very simple idea. Okay, and this is not an endorsement for string theory. Okay, and we go up the echelon, we apply the epochs of natural structure, and we go up the echelon, we have the fiber, and the fibers can be bundled into one-dimensional items, one-dimensional, very crudely stated, as like threads, yarns, and ropes. And in the next echelon up would be two-dimensional applications, which are fabric, sails, cloths. And then those fabrics can go up to the next echelon, which is 3D composites and stuff like that. And you can see as you go up the echelon, as you go up the echelons, up the epoch, you can see that the amount of things you can use the lowly fiber on get more and more and more and more until they become almost infinite uses. But everything here is still based on the lowly fiber. And this is kind of where I got this idea that as things have to get simpler and simpler and simpler as you go down, because a simple item has more uses than a very complex item. And let me demonstrate that in the next video slide. For example, the fiber can be used to make carbon fiber golf clubs. It could also be used to make the thread for the plumb bob. Okay, but you can't use the carbon fiber golf clubs to make a thread, unless you, of course, pound them up and pull the threads out. And likewise, you can't use the carbon fiber golf clubs to suspend your plumb bob. And you can't use your plumb bob to go play a round of golf. Well, I mean, it might be an interesting new kind of golf, but essentially that's not what you're going to do. So as you can see, the simpler items have more applications than the more complex items. And there's another example using stones versus the space shuttle. Stone is very simple. It's a building material. You can make stone tools. You can make decorations, jewelry. It could be the source material for ores. It could be paperweights, pet rocks. And if you cut it in half, it's still a stone. But the space shuttle is a very complex system. It only has one application, a space truck. If you cut it in half, it's no longer a space shuttle, it's a pile of junk. And so the more complex things has fewer applications than the simple things. Therefore, if there is a theory of everything, okay, simpler things have more applications, then logically simpler theories must explain more natural phenomena than more complex theories. You saw me alluding to that in video number 41, the Preton Gateway. And consequently, a theory that could explain the entirety of the universe must be unbelievably simple. So when in doubt, go simpler. Okay, but just because the underlying theory is simple, don't expect the applications to be child's play. Okay, if we go back to the ship example, okay, the applications of these fibers for all of these different elements is not simple, even though the underlying idea of the fiber is. And there's another example. Here we have an example of computer animation and the complexity of the computer code for computing all of the vectors and the light refraction and reflection and all that stuff. That's all based on extremely simple Boolean logic. Okay, something as simple as an AND gate means that if you have 5 volts in one and 5 volts in the other, you have 5 volts out. So if both A and B are 5 volts, you get 5 volts out. Otherwise, you get 0 volts out. That's simple, and these are all just as simple. This basic simple logic is the foundation for all of that complex computer hardware. Okay, but so let's conclude. Simpler things have more applications. Complex things have fewer applications. So a theory of everything must be very simple. But conversely, the applications of that theory, don't expect them to be simple. They're going to be complex. Because in order to weave something simple into something as complicated as a sailboat requires a lot of complexity. And here's a final thought using limits. This is something in mathematics. If we take the limit as the universe goes to infinity of the theory of everything, what does that mean? Does that mean as the universe goes to infinity that the theory of everything has to get so simple that it becomes 0? Or does that mean that an infinite universe cannot be defined because it's 0? You know, so this is an interesting question that bothers me. This says to me the universe has to be finite for there to be an existing simple explanation, because an infinite universe would suggest a solution that's probably so simple. You know where I'm going with this. This is a question that keeps me awake at night. I'm passing it off to the next generation because I've got other things to lose sleep over. But this is an interesting thing that comes from this research. Thank you. If I appreciate the donations and all the kind remarks. If you want to donate, go to my website. My website's woefully out of date. I don't plan on updating it very soon, but there's a donate button there. You can make a donation if you'd like. Thank you very much.